Good morning, good afternoon. Oh my God, look at that hair. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I'm having a Florida humidity Mufasa look. I'm not really quite sure what's going on, but it looks like my head exploded with extra hair. So if you want me to thin it out and you need hair, let me know because I'll mail it to you. Look at this, Marni. I have
Hey,
Mufasa going on.
oh, it looks beautiful.
It's so
People
humid.
pay a lot of money for that fullness.
My daughter's is like 3 times as full as mine. I literally have
Oh, it's
it
gorgeous.
thinned, and it just cracks me up because right now it's so humid that no matter what I do, it just goes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So
Nice to see you.
nice to see you, my beautiful friend.
Yeah.
So this is my friend, Dr. Marni.
Hey.
This is her book. And this is what, your third or fourth time on the show, right?
This is the third time. This is wonderful. I love to carry on this conversation.
I do too. And I love you so much. So it's just been really great to bond with you and talk with you and grow.
The feeling is mutual.
And I love the background today.
Yeah, this is right outside my window.
I'm so kind of jealous. I don't want to be jealous, but that's beautiful to look at every day. I could really appreciate that every day.
You know, it really is. I mean, I did find all those years where I didn't have this scenery, but now that I have it, I really appreciate it.
Amen. So today we're going to do something plot twisty. We're actually going to talk about recovering over narcissistic abuse and the tips and tricks and tools that we can put in our belt when we need to pull them out.
Yeah. Very necessary.
So Marni, let's give a preview of who you are, what you do, and what makes you you, and then let's get into it and dive deep.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, well, let's see. I'm an author. I wrote that spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, that was very well received and prominently endorsed by even James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy. So that was pretty cool. Prior to that, I was a high school special ed teacher for 35 years in the Chicago suburbs, with 12 of those years as an adjunct professor at Northern Illinois University. So in education. But my biggest role was or is that of being mom to my 2 beautiful children. And I was married for 27 years and escaped an abusive situation. I later found out after a lot of research that it was a very narcissistic domestic violence, intimate partner terrorism situation. And I just ignored all the red flags so that I could live my American dream life and raise my children, you know, just with stability. And but there came a time where I did need to leave, actually escape. And I did. And we've talked about that in the other meetings that we've had, the conversations that we've had. And now I'm living a beautiful life. I wouldn't say I'm free from this malevolent, obsessive abuse. Just as we both talked, the alienators and abusers don't want to let you go easily. And so they continue to harass you with legal petitions or just in any way they can stalk you, they do. It doesn't matter, like in your case, that your ex has remarried 4 times. They still don't want to let go. So anyway, I've realized that there's nothing you can do. These mentally ill people are going to continue to do what they have to do for themselves to try to, you know, save their public persona or mask, even though I'm sure it has slipped for others as well. But I've just chosen to continue to live life and still keep to my core values of love, honesty, goodness, compassion. And luckily, I, you know, met a wonderful person who is now my life partner. We traveled together. We ended up in the Caribbean, and I'm just living just a delightful life here in the Caribbean. It's always exciting. It's always beautiful. In fact, today I was, before I cleaned up for your interview here, I was out in the yard, working in the garden, and caught my 11th boa constrictor snake.
Good girl.
So, yeah, so I still screamed, but I collected myself, and we have our snake tongs everywhere. And so I was able to catch this one, and, someone wants to keep it as a pet, someone that I know. So, okay, they can do that. But anyway, it's a wonderful life I'm living in the Caribbean, and I'm excited to get back out to travel, but certainly this past couple of years, there has been a silver lining where I've met people, and we were able to connect virtually, which was just fantastic. And I think that when you do escape abusive situations and you begin to be discerning about who you let in your life and who you want to spend time with, you end up meeting some pretty amazing people. So, and you are one of those.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
I think that when you come clean with the red flags and all of those things, you acknowledge that it's not a guilt or a shameful thing, and that you really aren't at fault. Then all of a sudden these really wonderful people come into your life, and you're like, and you're scared. I have to tell you, for the majority of the last few years, I've been very scared to allow people into my life, because I don't want a repeat of that.
Right. And actually research shows that oftentimes there is a repeat. In my case, a repeat happened not with a love interest partnership, but with some friends that, I opened up my heart and soul to, thinking, oh, okay, we've got some history here, whatever. And that turned out, pretty clear that no, I needed to probably be a little bit more cautious. So I'm not really scared. Like you're saying, you've got some fear there. There's certainly enough fear to go around whenever you leave any kind of toxic situation. But I think that, I still am cautious, optimistically cautious.
So what kinds of tips and tricks do you use now that you're what I call in recovery of narcissistic abuse?
Right.
Which is a long deprogramming cycle. And like you, mine still comes after me. And it's just, lately it's been sexually divisive. It's just been very weird, like weird sexual things he keeps throwing at me, which is inappropriate. We've been divorced for 11 years. Like,
right.
Weird.
Well, another thing that these abusers will do is they will sign you up for pornography sites, and they will stalk you with spam. And, it's them, because that is their addiction. That is their issue. That's not your issue. It never was your issue. But that they do that. And even one of my adult children said, Mom, I don't understand why I keep on getting these like sexual kind of spam things. And I know where it's from, and it's unfortunate, but that's they don't have much left to stalk you with, so they try everything. But yeah, that's as far as recovery, I think part of the recovery is your voice. Part of it is acknowledging what you've gone through and being able to talk about it, and to be able to even see your role in it. Like, my role is that I was an empath, or that I was overly giving, overly trusting, and those kinds of programming in our own psyche happened probably from childhood traumas and needing to please, being a people pleaser and overgiver, when you were younger. And so I think part of the process is coming into terms with who you are and how did you choose the partner that you did, and what are some things that you maybe, you or me, we need to work on in our own personality, or just how we conduct ourselves. And I think we both have learned that, you need to be discerning and very mindful about who you let into your world. So I think having a voice and reflecting on your own role in things is very, very helpful. But then I really think, for me, a change of scenery was a big part of it. I was so glad to move away from Fox River Grove, Barrington, Illinois, so that I wasn't running into the same players, a lot of the flying monkeys, the old neighbors. In fact, the ex is back in our old neighborhood, which is, I know, isn't that just bizarre? But
how did he do that?
Well, he is with our next door neighbor, who,
oh my God, that's what my ex did when the first week I left.
Yeah, isn't that something? And someone said, oh, that must have been going on for years and years. Well, I know a number of extramarital affairs were going on for years and years. I'm not sure about this one, nor do I even care. Nor do I even want to reach out to that person and say, be careful, don't mingle your money, don't let him live in your house and take over your assets. But
larger than that, make sure that you wrap it, because he's going to bring home some extra stuff that you might need antibiotics for.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that goes without saying. That was a red flag even before I got married, and I just let that one go. But anyway, so I think change of scenery be a very healing and helpful thing. In fact, there's someone I know that just left an abusive parent and moved many, many states away, and already feeling freer. And so anyway, change of scenery can be helpful. So that's one thing.
A fresh start is really huge, especially if you're trying to reinvent yourself. And you have to, I think personally, from experience, you really have to dig deep and get good with what happened and reprogram yourself to be more self-sufficient and more about a healthy overall you, because they extract every piece of you that they can. And in my case, really isolated. I was really
isolated. And isolation is a big part of it. And it's kind of like you even still self-isolate as you're trying to protect yourself moving forward. One thing that was I didn't have a choice with, because of parental alienation, and we're talking severe. I hadn't had 8 years of holidays with either one of my children. And so before I chose to divorce, I was always involved with our holidays and created just wonderful holidays. Even the holidays that aren't the big ones, I made big, and, decorated the house, and we did special commemorative things. And it was just, I'm always trying to instill great memories for our children. And thank goodness I did, take a lot of photos and document them. Even though the ex probably has thrown all the scrapbooks and photos away, I still have a copy. I made sure I kept a copy, so at some point I could show the children, you had a great childhood in many, many ways. So one thing that I didn't have a choice on is I had to change holidays, just how I celebrate them. And one of them was a Thanksgiving that inspired one of the chapters in my book, actually the first chapter with the dancing dragonflies, where my boyfriend, life partner, we ended up going skiing. We always ski out west, but the snow wasn't so great, so we needed to stay local, and we went to Minnesota on a road trip. But I had just an amazing Thanksgiving that was so different than anything that I ever had, and it inspired me to write that in that chapter. So having to reinvent yourself also means reinventing what you thought would be traditions you would have forever and ever that really aren't. And so it was sad at times, but at times it was also an opportunity to just move on. And it actually made me reflect even on my own parents. When I left and when I didn't spend some holidays at home, they had to do, they had to reinvent things themselves. I know it was a different era, a different time, but it's all part of living. And so I just chose to go on living and still enjoy life. And but new scenery and new traditions are a part of it.
My ex thought he was going to hurt me by making it mandatory that he gets all holidays and her birthday. And again, narcissistic.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so we have all kinds of different holidays and we don't celebrate the Hallmark holidays. But I think our memories are greater because in January I take her to Universal, or I'll take her to Busch Gardens, or we'll do something weekend long, big thing.
Right.
And every June, the first 2 weeks of June, we drive from South Florida all the way up to Maine, and we take time doing that. And that builds a huge amount of memories and conversations and things that he'll never have, because in his head, it's all the fanfare.
Right.
And kind of that fake thing, which is ooey. Like, do you?
And chances are he didn't even really want those holidays. These narcissists, parent alienators, they don't really love their children like you and I love our children. It's not normal range or whatever. It's more like what it looks like to other people, or what you're supposed to do. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's all for show in many ways. And I think the kids eventually figure that out. But, so here he thought he was hurting you, but in reality, no, you can adjust,
Yeah, it's all about plot twists and being flexible in life, because if anything life has shown me is you have to be able to be flexible. Right. There's nothing that's foolproof in life. You have to be, scheduled is nice. Like you and I schedule our time, which I love.
Sure.
But there's always a plot twist.
Sure. Yeah. And this is not the life that I thought I would be living. I mean, at all. But I was spending some time trying to lay the foundation for future, things with our family. But then when it was evident I needed to escape my marriage, and I didn't plan it out like you should plan it out. There are some great resources out there to plan your escape. Tracy Malone from Narccissistic Abuse Support, I think I mentioned her before. Her book is coming out called Divorcing Your Narcissist. You can't make this shit up, because it's so crazy and chaotic, but it's a definite great step-by-step guide that, boy, I wish, all of us wish we had. But, we are shocked to find ourselves in the situation that we were, and we just kind of deal with it the way we know how. And that isn't without a lot of planning, thinking that they would, deplete the bank accounts, or that they would do this or that. You don't plan for that. You think that they would be, reasonable, but they're not. And so I think that's very important, like what we talked about. But I think it's also important to find a focus to for your healing. And in my case, writing turned out to be a big part of that. I was never someone to keep a diary or journal or anything like that. But I always enjoyed reading and writing. But I found this has really been therapeutic for me. I'm currently working on a book of poetry, and it is just so healing to put it down on paper. And but then there's also just other things. For the first couple of years I lived in the Caribbean, I didn't garden because gardening was a huge part of what I did in Fox River Grove, Illinois. I created lots of little gardens and little spaces, almost little spaces to hide and find little security, have a gazebo here or a table and chairs here, just like little alcoves to create an environment for myself. And when I found I moved here, my heart and soul was not into gardening at all. And but now I've rediscovered that. And so I'm enjoying that now. So I think, the things that you were used to doing, like in your hobbies or your volunteer work or, your interests, they might change. You might still come back to a few things, but realize that it might change and it'll open you up to some other things. Like I even took a painting class, which I really enjoyed. Realized also after that, I'm not a painter and I didn't really love it. And my final product, actually it turned out okay, but it's nothing great. And so, but I at least I explored that. So I think that's important for people to just explore, what might be interesting to you so that you can get your focus on some other things and start living your life again. You always have to be vigilant, look over your shoulder. You have to deal with these ridiculous legal things. In my case, there are so many lies in this last legal, threat that I'm really hoping that the judge will take a look at that, because there's no evidence to back up these things that they're saying, that maybe someone finally will say, okay, enough is enough. Chances are that won't happen. They're going to have to try to find another way. So of course you have to stop your life at times to deal with the nonsense, but certainly, it doesn't affect me like it did before. I really don't care, about him and his life. And I have no need to, prove any point or whatever. Just want to live my life, and
that's, as we wrap up, that's one thing that I don't think we've really discussed is cutting the cords with your narcissist. And even though I'm a parent and we share a child, eventually I don't need to have conversations with him. I don't have to go through the verbal and emotional abuse that he still gives after all of these years. And that's really important and really freeing, don't you think?
Right. I was very lucky though, when I chose to divorce, even though he said, don't you dare divorce me or I'll take everything. I'll take your house, your money, your kids, all that. But you know what? My kids were adults at the time. So I did have to deal with some things that unfortunately, due to some very poor legal advice and representation, the main lawyer I had was very, very unethical and just didn't look ahead, wasn't really looking out for my benefit. So some things did have to, many lawyers later had to clean up what they didn't do. But I didn't have to have those interactions. So that was really good. And there were a few flying monkeys, a few mutual friends, and I made sure I knew, even without all my experience, I knew I'm done. I don't want anything to do with them. And they still try to keep coming around. Luckily, I have a lot of things go to spam, so that I don't have to deal with any of that directly. But yeah, cutting the ties is very important, but it's got to be difficult, like in your case with, when you had minor children and you had to interact.
It was mind-boggling that the people that I really cared for and had unconditional love were very conditional and very two-faced, and
Yeah.
they were my flying monkeys.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it was hurtful in that sense, but I'm grateful that true colors were shown
Yeah.
because, you know, I'm able to start on a fresh slate in a lot
Right.
of ways.
Right.
The excitement, if there is any, is the shedding and the reinventing of yourself. And like you said, you know, go explore new hobbies. There are things out there that you may not have known that you will like. And
Right.
I personally paint, so, you know,
Oh, do you? Okay.
yeah. So I started resin. That was my latest addiction, doing resin art.
Okay.
But, you know, there are beautiful things to go out and do and feel and see and be a part of and be in love with.
Right. Right.
And it's kind of neat to look at the new feet that you've grown after all
Right.
of that, right?
Right. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I do have, you know, my best friend, basically, my life partner, Rick, that I can share so many experiences with. And he's extremely supportive, and really knows all the players, and knows, you know, is just very, very supportive, which is nice. But he's also just an interesting person and has his own interests. And so it's kind of fun for me. And just being around someone that is honest after living, you know, decades with someone so very dishonest. It's just refreshing. But yeah, it's, you know, luckily, I don't know if your viewers can see the background here, you know, later on this afternoon, I'll be in the ocean and just exploring and finding. It's always a new adventure whenever I go underwater. So, and I do that regularly. So
I love
that's
it.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
You, my friends, I'm so grateful for you. I'm glad we found each other, and I'm glad you were
Thank
able
you.
to share all of this with my viewers. And hey, don't be a stranger, please.
I won't. And thank you so much for your kindness and welcoming me into your podcast and into your life. And, you know, we definitely are soul sisters in so many ways, just because of our experiences. And, you know, it's wonderful you have this platform, not only for other people to share, but also for yourself. It's got to be very healing to get the validation that, you know, yeah, this is, put it out there. There's, you know, you can rise above all of this.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll see
All
you.
right. Take care. Nice to see you. Have a great day.
You
A great
too.
weekend.
You too. I'll talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Thanks. All righty.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. I'm Rusty. And as you can see, I go all over the world meeting amazing people who are doing amazing things. And yeah, recreating yourself isn't terrible. Kind of scary sometimes, but not terrible. And dabbling into new things and cutting things out of your life that no longer serve you are extremely important, especially if you had a narcissistic relationship. Know that you're loved, know that you're beautiful, and absolutely 100%, without a doubt, do something kind for somebody else. Clean out your closet, clean out your cupboards, clean out your car. Donate, 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 donate. We are a species of excess, and there are so many people right now who are in need, and you can do that. Donate your time. Go to an elderly, you know, assisted living facility and see if you can donate birthday cards or something like that. That would be really lovely, because I know a lot of elderly people who don't have family anymore, and that would cheer them up. Anyway, the list is long. Be kind, be love, and I'll see you next time.